Good evening. Toronto police are investigating 3 separate homicides in the city in the past 24 hours.
In one, a man was allegedly pushed from a high-rise balcony where he fell to his death, shocking those who live below. CTV's Mike Walker is live downtown tonight with more. Mike.
Nathan, Michelle, police have identified the victim as a 38-year-old man. This happened shortly before midnight. Residents we've been speaking with describe hearing commotion late last night. Investigators are now looking for 1 suspect and 3 people of interest. A forensic investigator dusts for fingerprints on an 8th-floor balcony where police say a man was reportedly pushed from to his death.
What really caught my attention was a bang of 2 cars colliding together.
That violent sound startling Elizabeth out of bed. She looked out from her balcony and saw a man lying face down in the scaffolding and a frantic woman on the street.
And she started yelling his name, Ryan, Ryan. Oh my God, Ryan, Ryan. And I'm like, what happened? I yelled out and was like, what happened? And then she was there and the other 2 people were there and she's like, he was pushed.
It happened just before midnight at the apartment building near Church and Shooter Streets. The man was pronounced dead in hospital. This morning, an officer was stationed outside the 8th-floor apartment, the unit door sealed by police. Homicide investigators have identified the victim as 38-year-old Ryan Williams, who they say lived in the apartment with his mother.
Investigation to date reveals that there was an altercation inside the deceased's apartment, and the deceased fell from his balcony.
Ibi Albaz lives down the hall and says he heard commotion late last night in the hallway and coming from his neighbor's unit.
Just like a lot of banging, stuff being thrown around. I did hear around 11:30 there was a commotion in the hallway.
He says over the last 2 weeks he's heard similar altercations.
We just hear a lot of arguments, door slamming, glass shattering all the time.
The homicide unit now investigating. Fingerprints are smudged on stairwell doors. An elevator was taped off by police while officers collected evidence and searched for witnesses.
We saw in the morning they were dusting off the fingerprints, I think, and we were just curious what's happening around.
Investigators are looking for 1 suspect.
The suspect is described as a male, 30 to 40 years old, 5'8" to 5'9", wearing a black hooded jacket, beige pants, and black shoes. He goes by the street name of Justice.
And 3 other people of interest who they describe all 4 as casual acquaintances of the victim.
We don't know exactly what's going on, but there's definitely something sketchy going on.
I'm still in a state of shock. I didn't go to bed. I couldn't fall asleep.
A violent incident that has left some building residents concerned about their safety. Now, the property management company has issued a notice to residents saying a counselor will be available for them tomorrow. Meantime, investigators did not reveal what the circumstances were that led to this deadly incident. Reporting live, I'm Mike Walker. Nathan, back to you.
Thank you, Mike. A homicide investigation is underway in Etobicoke after what police are calling a violent home invasion early this morning. This happened just before 2:30 near Lakeshore Boulevard in Long Branch. Detectives say 3 suspects forced their way into a townhouse while carrying a gun.
There was 2 occupants within the residence at the time. A demand for personal valuables was made and a struggle ensued.
A 30-year-old man was shot multiple times and later died in hospital. Police say the victim was visiting the townhouse at the time, and the suspects were looking for specific valuables inside the home. As a result, they say this is being investigated as a targeted incident.
Police were also on the scene in Scarborough today after a man was found dead in an apartment. Officers first responded to the unit at Lawrence Avenue East and Morningside Avenue at around 11:20 a.m. yesterday for what was called a medical complaint. Late today, investigators confirmed the death is a homicide.
The trauma that caused the injuries to the deceased was a stabbing. The victim in this matter is Mohammed Abdallah Mohammed. He's 40 years old, of Toronto. Mohammed is also known as Mohammed Awad, and to people close to him, he's known as Mo. So if anybody has information about recent encounters with Mo that may assist us in our investigation, I also encourage you to come forward and speak to us.
It's a massive investment in Canada's auto sector, with the official announcement that Honda will spend $15 billion to build its own vehicle supply chain here.
The federal and provincial governments offering billions in tax credits and incentives with the hopes of creating thousands of jobs. CTV's Adrian Gabriel has more from Alliston.
Keeping these auto manufacturing jobs in Ontario is a political priority.
It's a big win not only for Alliston, it's a big win for Ontario, but it's also a big win for Canadians.
Honda's investment totals $15 billion. Ottawa has pledged $2.5 billion in tax credits, while the Ontario government are committing $2.5 billion in direct and indirect incentives. The deal will create Canada's first comprehensive electric vehicle supply chain, with the minerals for the batteries mined here, all the way through the manufacturing of each vehicle.
How many jobs directly in the plant will be created, and how much is the government paying for each of those jobs?
New facilities, new plants that are going to employ 1,000 new workers. That's not just creating jobs, great jobs for 1,000 new people around here. That's contributing to an ecosystem that'll involve parts suppliers.
While the new electric vehicle assembly and EV battery plants here in Alliston, Ontario, will, according to Ottawa, create 1,000 jobs, neither government appeared willing today to share the cost to taxpayer per job created. The investment being made into Honda's proposed plan also includes 2 other facilities to be opened in Ontario. The location and the number of jobs remains a government secret.
We don't know how many jobs just yet, and we don't know exactly where.
Well, we do, and stay tuned.
The tax credit being offered by the federal government to Honda are a new tool being used to seal this deal. Auto industry insiders here today tell us they believe it could be a key to unlocking other lucrative contracts with major players in the markets. Adrian Gabriel, CTV News, Alliston, Ontario.
Still to come tonight, the city is tackling the issue of dangerous dogs, giving residents more information about potential problems in their neighborhoods. Outside we go this evening, a live look this hour at our beautiful city skyline. We've had sunshine throughout this Thursday. Not much in the way of spring warmth, but believe us, it is on the way. Jessica Smith is here with a look at your current conditions. We just have another one of those frost advisories tonight.
One more to get through, and then we start to see a bit of a reprieve. We will bounce back and then some as we head into the next 2, 3, 4, 5 days. For now, high pressure keeping the sky nice and clear, but it is fresh. I don't want to say cold, it's just a little fresh as we head in towards the evening. We are still under the frost advisory as we get through the overnight, but for now, it's not too bad in and around the Golden Horseshoe, between about 8 and 10 degrees, but we're seeing those temperatures start to drop. Over towards the island through Pearson, still lots of sunshine, 6 through the islands, over towards Pearson at 8. Tonight, 0, a goose egg, but you factor in the wind chill, it is cold. Coming up, your full forecast right now, back to Nathan.
Thank you, Jess. Just ahead on CTV News, it's 6 new steps that can help clean up the city's streets. Toronto unveils improvements to sidewalk garbage bins that should help cut down on littering. York Regional Police are asking for your help after an overnight tow truck fire outside a Markham home, and it was caught on camera. Take a look at the top of your screen. Investigators say they were called at around 12:45 in the morning to Williamson Road near Markham and 16th Avenue. Video from earlier shows a car drive up to a home. A passenger then walks up to a tow truck and appears to pour a liquid before setting it ablaze. Investigators are asking anybody who witnessed or recorded suspicious activity in the area to get in touch as they search for suspects.
Back in Toronto, emergency crews responded to a fire at a Scarborough apartment building this afternoon. The CTV News chopper flew over the scene at Eglinton and Mason Road, just east of Bellamy. The fire broke out shortly after 1 p.m. and smoke and flames were visible from that balcony. The fire has now been knocked down, and so far there are no reports of any injuries.
It is a literal warning sign for owners of dangerous dogs. New signs will be handed to nearly 400 dog owners.
The move meant to help residents protect themselves from dangerous dogs. CTV's Janice Golding reports.
We've seen the tragic consequences when dangerous dog orders aren't complied with. An East York woman mauled last summer, and more recently, a 9-year-old boy attacked in a playground.
It's a life-altering experience, and we need to make sure it doesn't happen.
A spike in dangerous dog attacks and the ensuing criticism has prompted the city to launch a crackdown. Starting this week, staff will visit 373 dog owners with registered animals and give them a warning sign like this to post on their properties. They'll also be reminded of the rules, namely, all dangerous dogs must be muzzled in public. They may not use dogs off-leash areas, and the dogs must have socialization and training.
If you know your dog has previous history and is dangerous towards the community and other dogs, then there should be some fine or punishment in order in place.
Beyond that, the city has also created a public online list of dangerous dogs. It includes the first 3 letters of the animal's postal code, its name and breed, and describes the severity of the bite.
Well, personally, I think it's a good idea, just for everyone's protection and safety.
That is a good thing, you know. It's hard for us, for our safety, because some of the dogs, you don't know if they are dangerous.
By postal code, the 3 areas with the highest numbers of registered dangerous dogs are M4L, which includes the beach and part of Leslieville, M4J, which covers much of East York, and M2J in North York, north of the 401 and bisected by Highway 404. City data also shows which breeds have the most dangerous dog orders. The top 3, well, there are 29 German Shepherds on the list, 22 American Bulldogs, and 19 Rottweilers on the registry.
If you have a dog that's trained right, you don't have these problems.
Daryl says he's owned American Bulldogs like Bailey his entire life and says specific dog breeds aren't the issue.
That totally agrees if it's been bitten people or kids or anything like that or attacked other dogs. But most of the problem is the owner and not the animal.
The city says it hopes the measures will help empower residents so they can determine the dangerous dogs in their neighborhood and report offenses.
The people that have been bitten, sometimes they think, well, nothing's really going to work. They feel very betrayed that that dog had an order and they've still been mauled, such as the woman in East York. She was just out for an evening walk and ended up getting mauled.
The city says the penalties for defying a dangerous dog order can be quite hefty. In fact, an owner, if convicted, could face a court-issued fine of up to $100,000. Janice Golding, CTV News.
A tentative deal has been reached between the AGO and its striking workers. The union says the agreement was reached late last night after 16 hours of bargaining. More than 400 curators, designers, technicians, and front desk staff walked off the job 1 month ago. Key issues included better pay and less reliance on contract work. The Art Gallery of Ontario was closed throughout the job action and labor talks. Details of the tentative agreement have not been released yet.
Independent MPP Sarah Jama was ordered out of the legislature today by the Speaker.
Her privilege is revoked for wearing a keffiyeh. The checkered scarf has become a symbol of support for Palestinians and is banned in the House. CTV News Queen's Park Bureau Chief Siobhan Morris has the latest on this. Siobhan.
Well, defiant Sarah Jama refused to leave. She's determined to fight on. But right now, a path that would allow keffiyehs at Queen's Park again is hard to see.
Sarah Jama, you are named. You must leave the chamber.
An independent MPP expelled from the Ontario Legislature, blocked from voting for what she was wearing.
There are people being genocided, and we are arguing about a cloth right now.
The keffiyeh, a scarf important to Muslim, Arab, and Palestinian communities, has been banned at Queen's Park. A decision made by the Speaker, who says it's become political.
It's not that the rules don't apply to me specifically. The rules very specifically apply to anybody speaking up against genocide, against anti-Palestinian racism.
Sarah Jama refused to leave the chamber, staying through question period.
There was no way for me to have her removed short of physical force. I wasn't prepared to do that.
But the order to go and Jama being barred from voting rattled the opposition leader.
I am appalled. And I think I speak for everyone here on this side of the House. And I actually believe I speak for many on the other side of the House as well.
Agreed? I heard some no's.
Attempts to allow the keffiyeh have failed, with MPPs from the government benches knocking them down. Opposition members say now the Premier needs to act.
He needs to actually speak to his members and allow this to pass or to move a motion himself.
The Premier has called the policy divisive and urged the Speaker to reconsider.
It's not good that this thing keeps hanging out. It's not good or healthy in here. It's not good or healthy outside.
But asked about Jama today, Doug Ford deflected.
The Speaker runs the legislature. I don't.
That was his choice.
MPPs are off on a 10-day break, but when they return,
I'll definitely continue as I'm here to continue to wear it.
The Speaker says he'll continue to respond to Sarah Jama based on the House rules. Now, as for the Premier, a protest about the keffiyeh ban is planned for his constituency office in Etobicoke tomorrow. Reporting live from Queen's Park, I'm Siobhan Morris. Nathan, back to you.
Thank you, Siobhan. Advocates are calling on the federal government to provide more funding for local transit, saying the latest budget came up short. Members of the group TTC Riders gathered outside Spadina Station with a special ticket for the Liberals, accusing them of fund evasion. Advocates say they're disappointed Ottawa didn't offer any new funding for TTC's safety and reliability in the latest fiscal plan.
We're also asking transit riders to contact our MPs and remind them that their payment is overdue. The federal budget failed to include requested funding for new subway trains. TTC staff have warned that without new subway trains, service will become less reliable in the future, with more delays and service disruptions.
The city says it has committed funds for new subway cars on Line 2, but the province says it will only do so if Ottawa chips in.
This morning, Mayor Olivia Chow unveiled plans to tackle a problem plaguing several Toronto streets: litter. The mayor says modifications are on the way for the city's sidewalk bins that will improve their durability and functionality. She pointed to issues commonly faced with these bins, including openings that are not wide enough or overflowing amounts of litter inside. She said more than 1,000 redesigned bins should be installed in busy areas by year's end.
The fact that we are sending staff to inspect it every week for 6 months tell you we're very serious in making sure these bins work. If it doesn't work, you will be the first. Well, I will be the first one to hear it. The other thing is that we want to, with sensors, we can see what's happening. That's why we're installing sensors on them.
Those sensors, Mayor Chow mentioned, will tell city staff when certain bins are at or near capacity. The planned upgrades come under the city's existing deal with Astral. The mayor says there will be no extra cost for taxpayers.
He electrified hockey fans for decades, a familiar voice in millions of homes across the country. Broadcaster Bob Cole has passed away. Cole died last night in St. John's, Newfoundland, surrounded by his family. He was 90 years old. The former Hockey Night in Canada play-by-play man called some of the sport's biggest moments in a career that spanned 50 years. Cole is being remembered as a great person, a mentor, a legend, and a passionate fan of the game. Toronto Maple Leafs head coach Sheldon Keefe says Cole was an icon who was the voice of hockey in Canada.
Quite honestly, growing up, I think every memory I would have of hockey would be, with his voice echoing. I think it's very identifiable, one syllable, and it's Bob Cole. So yeah, and I just know I have many friends and many people that love the games that Bob called and how he called them and the passion that he had.
Cole's in the Hockey Hall of Fame and is a member of the Order of Canada. He also skipped the Newfoundland team at the 1971 Brier and 1975 Canadian Men's Curling Championship. Cole also worked for the government in his home province.
A longtime member of Parliament from the GTA will not be seeking re-election. Colin Carey says it's time to clear a path for someone new to represent the community. The Conservative MP for Oshawa was first elected in 2004 and re-elected 6 times. In the coming months, Carey says he will be working to ensure convicted offenders legislation he introduced will be passed in the Senate.
New data is shedding light on how much plastic waste is produced in this country. From 2012 to 2020, Stats Canada says the equivalent of over 15 billion plastic bottles became litter, and up to 14 billion plastic grocery bags ended up in the environment. During the same period, more than 348,000 tons of plastic waste was permanently discarded. The data also shows a 14% increase in how much plastic waste Canadians produced.
In the Middle East, Israel stepped up airstrikes on Rafah overnight. Medics in the southern Gazan city reported 5 attacks that hit at least 3 houses, killing at least 6 people. The Israelis have said they will evacuate civilians from Rafah and launch an all-out assault. That is despite warnings from the U.S. and other allies that it could cause mass casualties. There was also resumed bombardments in northern and central areas of the territory, as well as east of Khan Yunis in the south.
Canada and 17 other countries have issued a new appeal for the release of the hostages being held by Hamas. In Jerusalem, worshippers held a traditional priestly blessing at the Western Wall for Israeli hostages. A statement released today by the 18 countries calls for the immediate release of all hostages detained for over 200 days. 129 of the 253 people kidnapped October 7th are believed to be still held. The assault on Israel killed 1,200 people.
Iran's defense minister is among those named in the latest round of sanctions by Canada. The penalties are being imposed after Tehran's April 13th retaliatory attack on Israel earlier this month. It followed a deadly airstrike on Iran's embassy in Syria that was widely attributed to Israel. The new Canadian sanctions affect 2 military leaders and 2 institutions. They are barred from entering Canada or having any economic dealing with Canadians.
There were some significant political developments in Haiti today. Ariel Henry is now officially out after handing in his resignation as prime minister. His remaining cabinet will then choose an interim PM. A transitional council was also installed. It's tasked with preparing for eventual elections. Haiti has been racked by gang violence that killed or injured more than 2,500 people from January to March.
A busy day on the legal front for Donald Trump.
Lawyers for the former U.S. president were at the Supreme Court while the so-called hush money trial continued in New York. CTV's Joy Malbin reports.
Donald Trump doing a little campaigning in New York before attending his hush money trial. While protesters gathered outside the Supreme Court, where Trump's legal team is arguing the former president has absolute immunity from criminal prosecution, Trump faces 4 criminal cases.
A president has to have immunity. If you don't have immunity, you just have a ceremonial president. You won't have immunity.
Absolute immunity, a daring reach for presidential power that lower courts have already rejected. Trump hopes to avoid federal prosecution over January 6th.
We will never give up. We will never concede.
And his efforts to overturn his presidential election loss to Joe Biden. Some of the justices seemed skeptical.
What was up with the pardon? What was up with the pardon for President Nixon? I mean, if everybody thought that presidents couldn't be prosecuted, then what was that about?
But this is a conservative majority court, 3 of them appointed by Trump, with some judges suggesting that former presidents might have some immunity. Meantime, Trump was in court listening to former tabloid publisher David Pecker describing their catch-and-kill scheme to buy and bury negative stories about candidate Trump. Pecker is a key witness for prosecutors who allege Trump falsified business documents to cover up an alleged affair with Stormy Daniels, to mislead voters and to influence the 2016 election.
Back to the Supreme Court. The justices won't rule for months, and that's a win for Donald Trump. His January 6th criminal trial likely won't go ahead before voters decide if they want him back in the White House. Joy Malbin, CTV News, Washington.
Reaction is pouring in after an appeals court in New York overturned Harvey Weinstein's 2020 conviction on felony sex charges. A new trial has now been ordered for the former movie mogul. CTV's Quebec Bureau Chief Geneviève Beauchemin reports.
The decision is a stunning reversal in a case that helped trigger the Me Too movement. In a split 4-3 ruling, New York's top court said the trial judge made errors, including a crucial mistake by allowing a series of women who said Weinstein assaulted them to testify while their accusations were not part of the charges against him.
In that courthouse at trial, the laws were perverted because there was so much pressure, because Harvey was the face of this movement, that he had to be convicted.
Ashley Judd, the first actress to come forward with allegations against Weinstein, called the news unfair to survivors.
This today is an act of institutional betrayal.
In 2020, Weinstein was convicted of sexually assaulting 2 women. He was serving a 23-year sentence in upstate New York. But more than 100 women have come forward saying Weinstein abused his power to coerce them into unwanted sexual acts. Among the silence breakers is Quebec actress Erica Rosenbaum, who says the decision is profoundly discouraging.
The legal system as it is just not built to convict. And so survivors go out on a limb and tell their stories and re-traumatize themselves for the sake of these trials, and then something like this happens.
The district attorney has vowed to do everything possible to retry the case. And those at the heart of the Me Too movement say today's decision changes nothing to the fact that so many women have found the courage to come forward.
This is not a blow to the movement. It is a clarion call. And we are prepared to answer that call.
Despite today's ruling, Weinstein is not a free man. He was convicted in a separate case of rape in a Beverly Hills hotel and is expected to be taken to California to serve his 16-year sentence there. Geneviève Beauchemin, CTV News, Montreal.
One of the most popular tourist spots in the world is charging an entry fee for some of its visitors. Venice has launched a pilot program requiring anyone visiting just for a day to pay $5.35. The Italian city hopes it will discourage people from arriving on peak days and make life easier for its dwindling residents. Visitors who are not sleeping in Venice will have to show a QR code proving they've paid the tax. The test phase is slated for 29 dates through July.
A rather unusual delay in PGA play. An alligator wanders onto the course of the Zurich Classic. Coming up, how the unexpected visitor affected the round.
And I'm Pat Foran. Coming up on Consumer Alert, buying a vehicle and maintaining it can be expensive, and costs can really add up if you need major repairs. Some people are now taking out loans for repairs, but if you miss a payment, your car can be repossessed in a hurry. I'll have my report just ahead.
We had that beautiful sunshine today, but not the warmth. We stayed below seasonal, much like yesterday. But heading into the end of the week, we rebound back to where we should be, and then things change dramatically as we head in towards the weekend. But it comes at a bit of a price. We have rain and warmth. Coming up, a look at your long-range forecast. And stay with us. We've got another full night of great shows for you right here on CTV.
With inflation and higher interest rates, some people are having a hard time paying their bills. And that's especially true when it comes to car ownership.
Some are even taking out loans to repair their vehicles. But if you do that and you miss a payment, you could have your car repossessed. Here's Pat Foran and a Consumer Alert. Pat.
Thanks, Michelle and Nathan. Some automotive shops are now offering loans which could help you if you have a breakdown, but not the money to pay for repairs. But with these loans, if you miss one or two payments, your car can be repossessed and expensive to get back.
Nobody wants to have their car repossessed.
Jeff Pierre of Markham has a 2018 Hyundai Elantra, and last month when he went to drive home from work, his car wasn't there.
Because I just saw empty space where my car was supposed to be at, and I didn't know what to do.
Last year, Pierre's car needed new brakes, tires, and other repairs, and he agreed to 3 loans with an auto shop that came to almost $5,000. He said he didn't want to borrow the money, but with a baby on the way, felt he had no other choice.
And I needed the car because I bring my wife to work, and I go to work with the car also.
Pierre took out the loans with Wippy, a company that works with auto shops, providing loans for repairs. When he missed 2 payments, the company repossessed his car. He's been told he must pay the outstanding balance to get it back, which now stands at almost $10,000.
At least give me a chance to repay the due balance.
A spokesperson for Wippy told CTV News, repossession is a last resort for us, and we understand the emotional and financial impact it can have on individuals and families. We exhaust all possible avenues to avoid such situations. When all efforts fail, we are obligated to take action to recover outstanding debts.
Certainly during this time of inflation and people struggling to make ends meet, we are hearing more about these experiences.
Credit counselors say more people facing financial hardships are having their vehicles repossessed. If you do, it will have a major impact on your credit rating and credit score.
So a repossession will stay on your credit report for 7 years after that happens. Then if you have that repossession on your credit report, it does make it harder for you to qualify for a car loan again in the future.
Pierre also has an outstanding bank loan on the car, but says there is no way he can pay the amount owing for the repairs, meaning the car will likely be sold to pay the bill.
I just can't pay that lump sum of money in one payment. It's just not possible.
And if you're having financial issues and are going to miss a loan payment, you're better off calling the lender in advance to see if they'll work with you. You may be able to work something out to avoid having your car repossessed. On your side, I'm Pat Foran.
If you have a consumer story idea, email us at alert@ctv.ca.
All right, to the forecast. I'm feeling like today and tomorrow, the last couple of days of cool weather, single digits. After that, we can get into warm weather, maybe take off the snow tires and move forward. I hope I'm right.
It's got to be it, right? I mean, we're getting towards, we're almost in May, although
Yeah.
we do see snow sometimes in May. But yeah, and we're switching to some real warmth.
We are. We do it's like a whiplash kind of switch. We go from frost tonight to temperatures into the 20s and humidexes into the 30s as we head in towards the weekend or the end of the weekend and next week. So you can take the snow tires off, but you still have to always drive according to the road and weather conditions. Weather is brought to you by Train, the most reliable heating and cooling brand. It's hard to stop a train. We've seen the sunshine settle in, high pressure holding on firmly. It just doesn't have the warmth that a lot of folks want just yet. We're not quite looking at that patio weather today. Tomorrow's still a little cool, but at least we're getting there. Into the weekend, things do change quite dramatically. A really warm push of southerly kind of winds will make things feel really different. We're at 11 right now through Windsor, 8 here in the city, the same through Ottawa. Northern Ontario already feeling some of that warmth as we head in towards the end of our day. Tonight we'll be at 0. It'll feel like -3. We're still flirting with that kind of frost advisory. Cover the plants one more night, and then getting into the day tomorrow, things are quite different. In towards Bancroft, it's still really cool. They'll be at -10. It'll feel like -13, but things change as we head into the day tomorrow. For now, still the frost advisory for us here throughout Niagara and in towards Windsor, Chatham, and Kent. Into the day tomorrow, we're almost there, 11 degrees. So something to kind of hold on to. The warmth is coming. It's the, I think I can kind of warmth as we head in towards the day tomorrow. In towards London, through Goddard, over towards Owen Sound, they're feeling it first, and then we get into that. It is quite clear as we wrap up our day today that high pressure, though, slowly pushed out as the system creeps its way up from south of the border, set to bring waves of rain for the next couple of days. So this is a multi-day rain event. Not a wash the entire time, but a good idea to keep the umbrella handy. Throughout the rest of our evening, really clear. You'll need your sunglasses to start the day tomorrow and to end the day, but as we head in towards the early evening, this rain pushes in. Overnight, it settles in for the city. So Saturday, if you're up early, we're watching for the first wave of showers, heavy at times. We do get a small break, though, into our Saturday afternoon, early evening, before another round of showers comes in for Sunday. The difference is it gets really warm as we head in towards the weekend. Very seasonal throughout the day tomorrow. Still kind of an easterly flow to the winds. We get into Saturday, Sunday. They become a little more southerly. We're up to 17 degrees. A seasonal norm was 15. In towards the evening, double digits, and we stay warm right throughout the weekend and into Monday. Sunday, we do get a few breaks from some of the active weather, but we are still going to hold on to that warmth. Around 22 degrees, the same, almost an identical forecast into our Monday. And then we watch for showers to kind of start to taper off Tuesday and Wednesday. As we welcome in the month of May, as we mark the middle of next week, we're kind of starting to moderate back towards pretty seasonal weather, but the weekend, despite it not being super sunny, it is going to be warm. Maybe you can take advantage, put the rain gear on, and get out and enjoy it. Nathan, I'll send things back over to you.
Thank you, Jess. Also tonight, Tim Hortons ventures into an all-new territory, brewing up a musical about that time years ago a group of strangers sought refuge inside a store to ride out a storm. How they're blending Timbits and double-doubles with song in moments.
What are known as cerebrospinal fluid leaks can cause debilitating symptoms, but they can also be hard to diagnose.
And as our health reporter Pauline Chan tells us, there are only a few experts in the GTA.
When Cambridge resident Jennifer Gibson came to Sunnybrook last year, she had had months of excruciating symptoms, intense headaches, vomiting, and brain fog, so bad she thought about ending her life.
I lost all my hope. I had requested MAID because the symptoms were so debilitating and so severe.
Cerebrospinal fluid is naturally secreted fluid around the brain and spine, which provides a level of cushioning for the brain and spine, and it has other functions, including clearance of waste products and things like that.
Dr. Anish Kapadia says the cause of cerebrospinal fluid leaks is not well understood. It could be related to inflammation, prior radiation related to cancer in the area, or surgery nearby. Diagnosis of CSF leaks really only began about 15 years ago and it's done by injecting a contrast dye into the CSF space to find the leak. But Gibson's previous doctors were reluctant to do that because puncturing the spine does have risks. Loss of cerebrospinal fluid leads to the brain sagging, and the adjoining nerves can be pulled, causing the headaches and nausea. The latest form of treatment is called embolization,
where we go in from the vein and try to block off that entire venous plexus with a type of glue to block the CSF from draining.
Gibson had her procedure in January and says she noticed the difference as soon as she woke up.
Within 2 weeks, I was able to stand in front of my stove and make waffles for the first time in 17 months.
Dr. Kapadia says not enough doctors can recognize the symptoms or do the diagnostic testing.
The one thing I noticed is every time I stood up, the headaches would get much, much worse.
He says that type of position-related or orthostatic headache is a hallmark of a CSF leak. And until more clinics learn about testing for CSF leaks, Gibson says patients have to advocate for themselves. Pauline Chan, CTV News.
The Writers Guild of Canada says the vast majority of its members have voted in favor of a strike amid contract talks with film and TV producers. 96.5% of members supported the strike authorization. It doesn't mean they'll walk off the job, but the vote puts that option on the table for negotiators for the first time in the Guild's 33-year history. The WGC's independent production agreement with the Canadian Media Producers Association expired at the end of 2023. Both sides say efforts to reach a deal will continue.
Canada's largest documentary film festival kicks off today in the city. Hot Docs will feature 168 documentaries from 64 countries with 51 world premieres over the next 11 days. President Marie Nelson says economic constraints led organizers to apply tighter curation to this year's edition. Nelson says the festival was disappointed to be left out of the federal budget after asking Ottawa for $2 million in emergency support. Opening the festival is U.S. doc Luther Never Too Much, a portrait of American R&B singer Luther Vandross.
The producer of the smash hit Come From Away has a new musical in the works, and it also has a very Canadian setting inside of Tim Hortons. The fast food chain is producing a show called The Last Timbit. It's loosely based on a 2010 snowstorm that was so bad, some in the Sarnia area had to wait out the weather at a local Tim's.
We hope it'll make people laugh. We hope it'll surprise people and ultimately be kind of moving because it's about the power of community, which I think we can all connect to.
At the heart of it is a great story. And as the person that gets to read the drafts, the scripts, and hear the music first, I've been humming these tunes. I've been laughing, but I've also been really moved. And I think that's what's going to surprise people.
The Last Timbit premieres June 26th at the Elgin Theatre. Tickets go on sale tomorrow morning.
After the break, a disappointing loss at home for the Leafs as Boston takes the series lead. Just ahead, Coach Sheldon Keefe weighs in on as the team looks ahead to Game 4 this weekend.
Getting ready for Niagara Comic-Con.
On the next CP24 Breakfast, we'll catch up with National Lampoon star Beverly D'Angelo ahead of her appearance at the Fan Fest.
CP24 Breakfast, where Toronto gets its everything every morning.
What really caught my attention was a bang of two cars colliding together.
Updating our top stories, police are investigating 3 separate homicides in the city over the past 24 hours, including one where a man was allegedly pushed from a high-rise balcony downtown. Police say 38-year-old Ryan Williams died after falling from an 8th-floor balcony of a building at Church and Shooter. Investigators are now looking for several people believed to have been with Williams when the incident occurred.
That's not just creating jobs, great jobs, for 1,000 new people around here. That's contributing to an ecosystem that'll involve parts suppliers.
A big boost for Canada's automotive sector as Honda announces a multi-billion-dollar investment. The automaker plans to create the country's first comprehensive electric vehicle supply chain, from the mining of the batteries to the building of the vehicles themselves.
It's a life-altering experience, and we need to make sure it doesn't happen.
And dealing with dangerous dogs, the City of Toronto unveils a series of new initiatives to help residents be aware of potentially troubling canines in their neighborhood.
And remember to keep up to date day and night through our website, ctvnewstoronto.ca, and by downloading the CTV News app. And if you have a news tip, photos, or video of breaking news, let us know.
In business news, a proposed deal in the mining industry pushed Canadian resource stocks up today. Andrew Bell from BNN Bloomberg has the latest in business.
Hello there. Honda plans to make electric autos in Alliston, north of Toronto, where it currently builds gasoline-powered CR-Vs and Civics. The investment was hailed by Prime Minister Justin Trudeau and Ontario Premier Doug Ford, who have already promised tens of billions of dollars to convince other manufacturers, including Volkswagen, to build huge EV battery plants. Honda, which will also build plants with Asian partners to produce battery components, will get up to $5 billion in provincial and federal government subsidies. There's a huge deal afoot in mining. BHP, the world's biggest metals producer, proposed a takeover of rival Anglo American that values Anglo at almost $39 billion US. Anglo said it would consider the transaction. Analysts speculated that other offers for the company will emerge. Shares in Canada's Teck Resources jumped 9% amid speculation that other copper miners will become takeover targets. And finally, U.S. stocks slipped after growth in the economy slid to an almost two-year low last quarter, while inflation pointed upward. There's fresh speculation the Federal Reserve will consider another interest rate increase rather than the cuts that investors want. Tech stocks were dragged down by weakness in Meta, whose shares dropped 11% after the internet giant said it plans heavy spending this year. After the markets closed today, though, Alphabet and Microsoft both posted strong results. On the markets, the Canadian dollar was at 73.19 US cents, up about 1/5 of a cent. WTI oil, North America's benchmark, changed hands at $83.57, up 76 cents. Western Canadian Select Oil traded at $69.11 US a barrel for the Alberta benchmark, down 79 cents. And the TSX Composite ended the day at 21,885.38, up just under 12 points. That's the latest in business. I'm Andrew Bell of BNN Bloomberg.
Report is brought to you by Canadian Western Bank, the bank built for business.
Tech giant Meta says its social media app Threads has reached a new milestone as it tries to take on X, formerly Twitter. Meta CEO Mark Zuckerberg said in this week's earnings call that Threads has more than 150 million active users. Analysts say that shows slow but steady growth after an initial surge in downloads. The app was launched last year as Elon Musk implemented changes at X. That prompted some users to leave the platform. X has previously claimed to have over 550 million daily users.
The Toronto Maple Leafs are preparing for a crucial game Saturday night. A win ties up their series against the Bruins. A loss sends them back to Boston, trailing 3-1.
And as you said, Ray, that Bertuzzi tip was heading toward the corner, but it hit Lindholm's like, Marchand scores!
Brad Marchand scored twice last night as the Bruins won 4-2. Tyler Bertuzzi and Matthew Nyes replied for the Leafs. Toronto will now look to regroup or be forced to win 3 straight.
Keeping your focus, that's really it. Sometimes you can you get up on a high and you start feeling good, and you got to be able to manage that in playoffs in particular. Whether it's shift to shift or period to period, game to game.
The coach did not say whether William Nylander will play Saturday night, but indicated the 2-day break will be a benefit.
An unusual interruption during the opening round of the Zurich Classic PGA Tournament in New Orleans today. As golfers were preparing to tee off on the 17th hole at TPC, Louisiana, an alligator made its way across the tee box. The reptile was clearly not in any hurry, so the golfers about to tee off had to wait for the reptile to cross. In the meantime, they managed to get in some practice swings despite the distraction. Both pairs playing the 17th hole at the time managed to par the hole. Pretty good. Just ahead, a bug problem so loud many people can't sleep. We have the pesky details of a cicada invasion plaguing our neighbors to the south. And the numbers could be in the trillions. don't have video available for you, and hopefully we can get to that a little bit later. For now, we're going to talk about the forecast. And right now, you can say that it's a little bit chilly outside. It's windy, and hopefully things are going to change. My son's got football practice tonight, and I warned him, dress warmly. Never mind the sunshine.
Yeah, I don't think the cicadas would like this weather.
Absolutely not. For football, though, once you're moving, it's not bad. I do love some like springtime and fall football weather, but it's different when you're a parent watching or you're a friend watching. So layer up accordingly. The thermal sock's probably still a good idea. The good news is if you've got sports going on tomorrow night or even throughout the weekend, significantly warmer. But the weekend, we have a change. It's going to be really warm, but we're watching a multi-day rain event kind of settle in. So it is going to be a little soggy. The good news is right now there's nothing going on. I promise the satellite and radar picture is working, but there's nothing happening. That's thanks to high pressure. It is going to be a bit of a cooler evening. We still have that frost advisory in place for the city of Toronto, in towards Windsor and out through eastern Ontario. So just keep that in mind. Right now it's not bad, but tonight it gets chilly. For the kids tomorrow, maybe a jacket to start the day. They can ditch it into the afternoon. As we head in towards our weekend, though, 17 degrees. I like it. 22, even better. A bit of a humidex rolling in as we head into Monday, but we're watching for showers off and on. So just keep that in mind. It won't be a washout over the next few days, but that umbrella, you'll want to keep it handy. Send things back to you guys.
All right. Thank you, Jess. Be sure to join Omar Sachedina tonight at 11 for CTV National News, followed by Zoraida Allman, linked at Natalie Johnson, with our next local newscast at 11:30.
In the meantime, our coverage continues anytime on CP24 and online at ctvnewstoronto.ca.
For Jessica Smith and all of us at CTV News, thank you for watching and have a good night.